Bosses are a common theme in video games. They are used to test your skill or to reinforce something you have just learned. Sometimes these bosses are mini, at the end of levels, or sometimes they're the final bosses of the game. And yes, the latter is specifically what this list is focusing on. Final bosses are a testament to your skill and progress as a gamer. They're what you have been playing through the game and mastering your technique for. So I'm here to count down the top 10 of these final bosses, from every video game I have played. What makes a boss stand out for me is how they play, how well they test your skill, their music, and any other thing I might enjoy about it. Since there are plenty of games I haven't played, please be civil if I don't include your favorite final boss. And I'm sorry if you haven't guessed this by now, but there are inevitably going to be spoilers all around in this list. So keep watch, be mindful of your comments, and please enjoy. The Portal games are possibly Valve's greatest accomplishment, after Team Fortress 2 of course. To those that have played the Portal franchise, they know the wonderful humor and puzzle solving that is held within these games, and the bosses are no exception to this fact. Most people would say that GLaDOS from the original Portal is the best boss fight, but I disagree. My favorite final boss in the Portal franchise, and my 10th favorite boss of all time, is Wheatley. Wheatley is an AI core that has been helping you escape from GLaDOS through the entire course of Portal 2, and you think his intentions are good until GLaDOS is turned into a potato and you're thrown down a trash chute. Then you go through another section of the game learning about gels and how to use them until you go back up to Aperture and fight Wheatley. Once you meet Wheatley, he rants about how it's not going to go down like it did with GLaDOS in the first game. Then some stuff explodes and the battle becomes just like GLaDOS's. Except this time you rely on the gels to get you from place to place and put the corruption cores on Wheatley. Once you have all the cores on Wheatley, you have to go press the button to switch GLaDOS and Wheatley. And when you try to do it, Wheatley tries to kill you. Again. But you don't die. Instead, the building you are in starts to crumble even more than, and oh hey, that's the moon. Wait a minute. Do they really want me to? That is awesome. Once Wheatley gets sucked into outer space, GLaDOS pulls you back in and you're finally safe. The reason I love this boss so much is similar to why people love GLaDOS so much, the humor. Wheatley has great one-liners along with the good banter between him and GLaDOS.
You're not just a regular moron. You were designed to be a moron. I am not a moron!
And who can forget the space core? But by far, my favorite part of this final battle is what you get afterwards. Kirby's Return to Dreamland was an amazing game, and definitely brought me back into the Kirby franchise. And the story was definitely a large part about what made me love it. Throughout the story, you are helping this little harmless guy named Magolor collect ship parts, and oh, big surprise, he's the bad guy. After helping him rebuild his ship, Magolor steals the Master Crown and gets hopped up on Mario shrooms and sets off to destroy Popstar. Then Kirby sets off in his chase sequence on the back of Landia. At this point, the game takes on a 2D side-scrolling shooter-type field, and along the way you take out enemies while avoiding walls and falling objects. Once you catch up to Magolor, he summons a giant ominous killer spaceship of death, and sets out to destroy you with that. It shoots giant killer ores, shoots massive laser balls, and tries to bull rush you in a manner that can only be described as thrilling and crazy. All this is coming at you while trying to avoid objects and simultaneously shooting at it. Then Magolor gets super pissed and uses Dark Void on Kirby and the crew. And the true fight with Magolor commences. He can use a myriad of attacks against you, including summoning energy balls, spikes, evil creatures, laser beams, fire, and a freaking black hole. Finally, once his health is low, he brings out a shield that can only be destroyed by using your super copy abilities. Once the shields are brought down enough, it's time to
finish him
with the biggest sword you have ever used. Once everything is over and you've finally beaten Magolor, oh come on, he's alive again! This time the Master Crown revived him, and he's even more powerful than before. He can use all of his previous attacks that do much more damage, but now he can summon portals that he aileron rolls through. Yes, that's an aileron roll, not a barrel roll, look it up. More lasers, and giant triangles of death. In addition, he can use massive versions of your super copy abilities, such as the Ultra Sword and Monster Flame. That's not even the best part of this battle, though. Truly, the greatest thing about this fight is the music, which can only be described as pure orchestral magic. Everything about this battle is amazing and truly shows that Kirby is not a series to be forgotten. When Kid Icarus Uprising first came out, I never had much interest in the game. I thought it looked cool, but nothing incredible. But I finally broke down and decided to buy it after hearing Ben talk about it countless times. And my god, I'm glad I bought that game, because it is one of the best I have played not only in 2013, but in my entire experience as a gamer. So thanks for that, Ben. I was thoroughly amused not only with the gameplay, but also the humor throughout the entire game, and the final boss is no exception. At the beginning of the mission, Pit starts up the Giant Angel Death Machine, otherwise known as the Great Sacred Treasure, and tears through a ton of enemies on his way to confront Hades. Once Pit finally reaches Hades, they start fighting, and it does not slow down. You have to constantly evade balls of energy that are coming at you while trying to hit Hades with your shots. Finally, Hades takes on the form of Usain Bolt and chases Pit down until he sprains his ankle. Then he flies off and Pit follows. Once you catch him, you start scaling his body and shooting anything that moves or looks like it can be shot. Finally, he blasts you with energy arrows and another fight scene commences. In this one, he shoots more balls of energy, lasers, and anything else that seems like it might as well be shot out. Or, you know, just use a drill. What's so great about this fight is that throughout the entire game, you're never sure where Hades' allegiances lie. At one point, he's even helping you. So you're left questioning if you should actually be fighting. Okay, never mind, Pit just cut off his legs. After this, Hades' upper body flies away and respawns its legs, but now you have somewhere to shoot. Meanwhile, he fires more balls of energy at you, and once he gets too fed up, he crushes the Great Sacred Treasure in between his hands. Pit wakes up to see Hades charging up an extremely powerful shot, and then Medusa face palms him and Hades' face goes bye-bye. Then Hades regenerates his face and Medusa gets killed for the umpteenth time in the series. Then Pit grabs a gun of the Great Sacred Treasure and Palutena starts charging it while he dodges more attacks. Meanwhile, Hades shoots lasers out of both his hands and his nose, until finally Pit blows Hades into mist and the battle ends. This battle looks great, plays great, and the best part is that we are just getting started on this list. So if you ever wondered what you get when you combine an oversized lizard with a space station orbiting the Earth, well, in any case you have, I'll tell you what you get. You get the final battle of Sonic Adventure 2, Final Hazard. In Sonic Adventure 2, Sega introduced the character of Shadow the Hedgehog, the ultimate life form. Throughout the course of Sonic Adventure 2's story, we slowly learn that Shadow was created by Dr. Gerald Robotnik, Eggman's grandfather. Gerald made Shadow in hopes to find a cure for his granddaughter, who had a terminal illness. This ended up being pointless because after learning of Gerald's experiments, Gunn raided the Ark where Gerald was experimenting, killing Maria in the process. After this, Gerald decided to exact revenge on the people of Earth for harming Maria and capturing him. So he set the Ark on a collision course with Earth. Of course, Sonic and team set out to stop this, but first they enlist the help of Shadow and his limitless power of chaos control. Once Sonic and Shadow meet up and they have both acquired all 7 Chaos Emeralds, they use their power and become Super Sonic and Super Shadow. And it's freaking awesome! Soon afterwards, they head to the Ark where Final Hazard is waiting. The battle is admittedly a little tedious because of how awkward using Super Sonic or Shadow can be, but it makes it so worth it just to hear the awesome sound of Live and Learn playing in the background as you pound Final Hazard's red pustule things. What truly makes this battle great is how afterwards, Shadow sacrifices himself by using Chaos Control to teleport the Ark off its direct path with the Earth. The surge of power caused Shadow to faint and fall back to the Earth. It was a surprisingly heart-wrenching moment for those who played this because Sonic was a pretty laid-back series up until this point, and Shadow's selflessness definitely served to better this final battle, game, and series.
Sayonara, Shadow the Hedgehog.
You know, I don't mention it much, but I do actually like the Final Fantasy series a lot. The series is known for its great villains and final battles, and my favorite final battle has to be the final battle of Final Fantasy VII against the one-winged angel, Sephiroth. You didn't seriously think I would put Sephiroth above Kefka, did you? Kefka is not only my favorite villain in the Final Fantasy series, but also one of my favorite boss battles of all time. After partially destroying the world and becoming the god of magic, you and your team set out to stop him in his reign of tyranny. Once you find him, Kefka proclaims that he wants to destroy the entire world and all life as we know it, or he will die trying. Throughout this battle, the party of players goes through a series of 3 bosses before finally reaching Kefka. All of the bosses prior to reaching Kefka are symbolic of his different personality traits. They show his evil and lust for destruction, his insanity and mental instability, and finally his narcissism and superiority complex to others. This also resembles Dante's Divine Comedy of journeying through hell, purgatory, and heaven, until finally reaching God. The music that plays during this fight also reflects the symbolism even more. In the first part, it sounds edgy and harsh. Then in the second verse, it sounds quirky and insane. And in the third part, it's even a direct copy of Toccata and Fugue in D minor, which goes great with the effigy of Kefka directly mocking Michelangelo's Pieta. After the first 3 phases are defeated, you rise to meet Kefka, the new god of magic. This part is incredibly symbolic due to Kefka resembling Satan as a falling angel. Also, Kefka is draped in the color purple. Even his body and wings are completely dyed in a purple hue, save for his hair. This is because in Japan, purple is the color of death and destruction. In this final phase of the fight, Kefka makes one last stance at destroying you and the entire world, as he slowly comes to terms with his sad existence and inevitable death. And once your team finally overpowers him, he takes his death with dignity, and gives the most powerful words any man can muster. Nothing. As Kefka Palazzo, the god of magic, dies, he does not even mutter a single word. He just accepts his fate as his body, empire, and all of his destruction crumble before his eyes. That is what makes this battle so great. It is satisfying, symbolic, and a true marvel of a final battle. It may not be the greatest final battle of all time, but it's a whole lot better than a deformed angel. The Legend of Zelda series is one of the longest running and most influential game series in all of gaming. So with that type of praise, you would figure that these games would have outstanding final bosses, and trust me, they do. Now I know what you all are thinking. I'm gonna put Ganon on here. I mean, he's the final boss in practically every game. Well, I'm not. I guess you could say my choice is a little more insane. I love the final boss of Majora's Mask even more than Ganon or any of his weird piggy forms. What makes me like this boss, and the entire game for that matter, is the tone of the battle. Something just screams incredibly weird yet awesome when you're fighting a possessed mask inside of a moon with a face that is on a collision course with the Earth. But what about the actual battle? Well, in Majora's first phase, it takes on the form of a mask and attempts to whip you with its spikes and tentacles. It can also make the mask on the wall attack or shoot you with laser. Oh, I've used that joke way too much. Then once you take it down by hitting it with arrows or its own lasers, it goes into its second form. And well, its second form is, in this phase, Majora takes on the form of what I guess is a mentally unstable ballerina. He can attack by running at you, shooting lightning balls, kicking, and taking on the form of Michael Jackson. Once you knock him down enough, he sprouts a head and goes into his third form. In this form, Majora's main method of attack is to hit you with its long arms. To close the gap on Majora, you have to use your shield to get closer to him, and then stun him and strike him. Or, you know, Fierce Deity Mask. This battle stands out in my mind not only because of the awesome combat, but also because of the foreboding atmosphere. And that is why Majora is my favorite Legend of Zelda boss. As anybody who visits my channel should realize, I love Pokemon. They're incredibly fun and creative games, though nobody talks a lot about the bosses in them. The gym leaders act as bosses. Each gym leader carries a specific type of Pokemon, ranging from rock to water, and now we even have fairies. Yay! And once you conquer all 8 of these gyms, you can battle the Elite Four, the toughest trainers in all of the region. But after them, one more challenge awaits you. The Champion, the most powerful trainer in the entire region. He conquered everyone else, and now you get to fight him. Now, most people would think I would put the Champion in this spot. I mean, he is the champion, right? Well, I'm not. You see, in Pokemon Silver and Gold, Game Freak did something incredible. They made the region of Kanto from Pokemon Red and Blue available after conquering the champion of Johto. This meant you got to relive the old games and go through the gyms in Kanto once again. Though after you got all 8 gym badges from Kanto, you had a rather special battle. It was a battle with yourself. That's right, at the end of Pokemon Silver and Gold, you get to battle Red from the original Pokemon games. And Red is no pushover. All of his Pokemon are level 73 or over. He has a level 73 Espeon, a level 75 Snorlax, a level 77 Venusaur, Charizard, and Blastoise. And of course, his level 81 Pikachu. Granted, you have a whole 2 regions to train to get to this guy, but he's still a challenge nonetheless. The reason I like this battle is because you literally get to fight yourself. You spent the entire game of Pokemon Red or Blue training with your Pokemon, and now it's time to put that to test by fighting every one of them. This battle is truly a testament to your strength as a trainer. You conquered 16 gyms, 2 regions, 2 champions, and there's only 1 trainer left for you to face. The Mother series is not a very popular one, but the final boss from Mother 2, Gygus, is very popular among gamers because it's so strange. But the thing is, Gygus isn't on this list. The fight that I'm talking about is from the game's successor, Mother 3. Throughout the course of Mother 3, the main character Lucas suffers many hardships. In the beginning of the game, Lucas's mother dies at the hands of a chimera. The news of this leaves her husband, Flint, in a fit of rage, and he ends up hurting innocent civilians and subsequently gets thrown into jail. After he's thrown into jail, Lucas's brother, Klaus, promises to avenge their mother's death and heads off to the mountains. But when people go looking for him, he is nowhere to be found. Eventually, Lucas discovers that he has a connection to Psi abilities that let him use magic of sorts, and he sets out on a quest to pull the 7 needles to awaken a dragon that sleeps below the island. Around the same time, a strange masked man appears who wields similar Psi abilities to Lucas and commands the Pigmasked army. After 6 of the 7 needles are pulled, Lucas and his team set out to find the 7th needle in Newport Town. While here, they encounter the one who's in control of the masked man and the true leader of the Pigmasked army, Porky. After defeating Porky, the party is dropped into a hole where the 7th needle is located. But before they can pull it, the masked man takes out everyone on your team except for Lucas, so you have no choice but to fight him. Soon after the battle begins, you realize that you are very outmatched. But then something strange happens. The ghost of your mother, Hanawa, starts talking to the masked man. She tells him to come to his senses. Then he removes his mask, and it is clear that you are fighting your brother. The reanimated and brainwashed corpse of your own brother. After Klaus comes to his senses and realizes that he is about to kill his brother, he fires a bolt of lightning directly at Lucas, and it reflects off his Franklin badge right back at Klaus, dealing fatal damage. Klaus committed suicide. Lucas rushes over to Klaus's corpse and starts to remember everything about him. But only through his senses. He remembers Klaus's touch and smell, and he embraces him until Klaus lets out his final breath. Afterwards, Lucas pulls the 7th pin, and we get nothing that we expected. Pulling the 7th pin only results in calamity and destruction. and you get to see all the destruction that pulling those pins cause. This final battle and ending truly shows what a marvel this game is. Throughout the entirety of it, it's very cute and relaxed. There are bright colors and childish enemies. All of this is a major contrast to Klaus's death and enslavement, and then the inevitable cataclysm that you brought onto the world. The worst part is that not even the game knows if this is truly the end or not. And with the game being over 7 years old and no sign of a sequel anywhere in the future, it is likely that we won't ever know the real ending to Mother 3. The Metal Gear Solid franchise is one of my favorite franchises of all time. It ranks up there with Pokemon and Sonic, but we already had those franchises, so what's left? Well, that would be the final battle from Metal Gear Solid 4, Liquid Ocelot. I applaud you, Kojima. You truly have made a spectacle of a final battle with this one. It is a masterful representation of every game in the Metal Gear franchise. It is a purely one-on-one fight between Solid Snake and an old enemy that is corrupted by the soul of Snake's clone. It is a duel between two old, war-scarred, and dying men. It all starts when they decide that it's time to finish the everlasting feud, and they inject each other with nanomachines. This is where the fight begins. It takes on a retro feel, complete with retro life bars and the music from the original Metal Gear Solid. This is truly what a fighting boss should be. Just like a real life fight, you can block, duck, punch, and kick. No gimmicks, no weapons, only fists. Then once you and Liquid fight each other enough, the second phase of the fight begins. Meanwhile, Tanker Incident from Metal Gear Solid 2 starts playing, and Liquid takes on the fighting style of Liquid Ocelot. In this phase, all the blows become much more cinematic, and a lot more close quarters combat is used in this phase, showing that both these men are hurt and their patience is deteriorating. Soon after you hurt Liquid enough, another cutscene is triggered, and he takes on the fighting style of Major Ocelot from Metal Gear Solid 3. Meanwhile, Snake Eater from MGS3 starts to play, and the life bars change design resembling those from MGS3. During this sequence, a major part of the combat is quick-time button combinations and grappling with Liquid. Once both of your life bars are down enough, Snake and Liquid clash and fall to the ground. This is when the final and most dramatic phase of the fight starts. In this phase, every punch is cinematic and drawn out. Snake and Liquid race to hit the other first, because at this point, they are both much too weak to fight. All the meanwhile, Old Snake is playing, one of the most beautiful and solemn songs in all of gaming. All of these things combined makes this final battle truly one of the most visceral and real experience I have ever had from a game. The only thing that I question is, what can beat it? What is the one thing that can top the beauty and tone of Liquid Ocelot? The symbolism of Klaus, the epicness of Red, the craziness of Majora, the evil of Kefka, and everything else on this list? Our government! Throughout the entirety of Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, you have been chasing down a company that has been harvesting the brains of children to make them into cyborg warriors. Though this is only scratching the surface of the plot. The harvesting of brains was simply to distract Raiden from the real plan of Operation Tecumseh. which is to assassinate the president to create a new war on terror, ensuring that America would fall into despair after their leader died and a new war had arisen. Then Armstrong would be a prime candidate for president. He would step in and change everything about America to fit his dream of a country where you fight for your beliefs, not a company or nation. So Raiden sets out to stop him in one of the most complete final battles I have ever faced. The fight starts when you arrive at an area of the stage where you find Blade Wolf lying on the ground, broken. And then Metal Gear Exodus, which is piloted by Armstrong, comes out of the ground and the first stage of the battle begins. This stage is not horribly hard. It has easily noticeable attacks and plenty of chances for you to refill your health. The variety of attacks Exodus can throw at you range from slashes with its blades, lasers from its cannon, and crushing you with its feet. Whenever it stomps at the ground or slashes at you with its blades, it opens up the opportunity to take down the machine's health. Then once you get its health low enough, you can cut off one of its legs, and then the process starts all over again. Finally, once you weaken it all the way, you get to enter a button mashing sequence where you rip off its arm and clash with it. After the final clash, you finish off the machine by going all Schwarzenegger on it and cutting it with the biggest freaking sword you will ever use. After you think you've ended the battle, Armstrong comes out and uses some kind words, then well, he does this.
Oh, you've got to be kidding me!
After this, Armstrong proceeds to fight you one-on-one, and sweet lord, he's got a ton of health. Your standard blade attacks take him down in minute increments, and his attacks will send you flying across the screen, crying for your mother. Finally, once you take his health down by an impressive 5%, another cutscene triggers. In this cutscene, Armstrong breaks your sword, then rips off Martin Luther King Jr. a little bit, and now you're left to face him with your own two hands. In this stage of the fight, it's even harder to effectively hurt Armstrong. The only way you win is to purposefully die. The main point of this stage is to simply get you angry and make you want to fight even more. I mean, look at this garbage! Then Armstrong gives us a little strip show and unveils that the source of his power comes from
Nanomachine, son!
After this, Armstrong beats Raiden so hard that it literally makes Exulsus explode, and we find that Blade Wolf is not completely broken. He then gives Raiden Sam's sword, which you picked up after you fought him, and we learn that Raiden can now use it. So then Armstrong kills your dog for a second time, and we obtain Sam's sword, effectively starting off the last and greatest part of this final boss. In the stage, Armstrong is at his most powerful, but so is Raiden thanks to the help of his newly acquired sword. Armstrong can deal an incredible amount of damage with his attacks in this stage. He can summon large fireballs that travel across the ground, giant flame pillars that block your way, and he can even crack the ground and bring out large columns of fire. He also has a variety of punches and attacks that trigger quick-time events, and if you're even the slightest bit off when dodging these, you will be losing a large chunk of health. Once his health gets low enough, Armstrong will begin to throw what I presume are large pieces of building or ground at you. These portions of the fight require extremely accurate precision with blade mode. Once that portion is completed, Armstrong will continue to fight until his health gets low enough to where he attempts to regain it by absorbing energy. To stop him, you have to use blade mode once again to slice his back and break his concentration. Finally, once the fight is near the end, Armstrong charges you and you impale him with your sword. But it's not over there. He keeps fighting, then you rip the sword out and stop him for good. Then he monologues a little bit, and finally Raiden ends it with one of the greatest finishers I have ever seen. Then Armstrong continues to monologue even after his heart explodes. The reason why I love this battle is because of how complete it is. There are 3 stages of varying difficulty, and you have to change your strategy with every single one. This battle tests every ability you have learned up to this point. It tests how you attack, your dodging and blocking, your response time, and it especially tests your blade mode abilities. This battle even has deeper meaning to it. It shows Raiden's struggle with the morality of the situation he's put in, and the one that he has been dealing with the entire game. Surprisingly enough, it's not any of the dialogue that explains this, it's the music. In the song that is playing in the background during the 3rd phase of the fight, rightfully named It Has to Be This Way, the vocals showed that neither Armstrong nor Raiden want to fight. They are actually very similar. They are 2 men that are just fighting for what they believe in, and that sadly, it just has to be this way. This is what makes this battle perfection. The gameplay, the theme, the constant use of old abilities, and the test of your skill as a player. The cinematics, the oddly stimulating conclusion to the fight, and the entire game. This is why the final boss of Metal Gear Solid Rising: Revengeance is my favorite final boss, not only in the Metal Gear series, but it is my favorite final boss out of every game I have ever played. My name is Alfredo, and if someone from Konami is out there watching this, I beg of you, make a sequel to this game!